electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Open your mind.
Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to Conversations on the Fringe. I am your host, Jeff Spike Wong. And today we are going to talk about something that's pretty dear to me because I spent over half of my life as a musician.
I can't hear you anymore.
Okay, so I'll fix that in a second. Cole's telling me he can't hear me. With that, basically, what we're going to talk about today is just how artificial intelligence out of the middle of nowhere around 2023 came in and started to go into productions, especially in music. So with that, it really kind of hit home because I really didn't put that much emphasis on it. I didn't put a lot of thought to it until now I realized that Billboard charts is now start to hit.
If you can hear me, I couldn't hear you earlier. I mean, I heard you just fine in the sound check, but I can't hear you now.
Okay, so Cole Stanfield,
Technical
who
glitches.
He is a buddy
All of a
of
sudden it
mine.
just disappeared.
So
And I heard you completely in the room before. So
right. Okay, so with what we're doing, let me do this.
and I didn't change anything on my end. So let me just double check that I've got you. But
Don't you love technical difficulties? This is always, one of those things. Is no different than you ever walk on stage.
should I try to get off and log back in? Maybe. Okay.
So basically, as I was saying, spending over half my life, I'm 61 years old. I'm sure you all know that Redfield family, after seeing me for a while now. And to come back into playing music and teaching.
That
Can you hear
works.
me now?
Yeah, that worked. Do you hear me?
Okay. All right. So I was telling the audience basically that I spent over half my life, at least, as a musician. And I've been a teacher, instructor for over 30 years as well. And one of the things that I would definitely say that, learning playing an instrument and playing music is something that requires investment in yourself. And it requires refinement and repetition. And I would say in less than counting on one hand, actually two people only comes to mind that I would say have those kind of prodigy gifts, meaning literally I show them something that they've never touched the instrument before. And within less than 30 minutes, they can play the instrument like they've been playing.
Yeah.
So that is an anomaly. It's a freak of nature. And most people who I've taught over the 30 years are the ones that had to make a commitment, had to refine and practice. And less than, I would say, 5% of what I've taught became somewhat very good and proficient, and less than 2% became professionals.
Right.
And I would say 1% is world class.
Yeah.
Right.
No, 100%. Yeah. No, I mean, the time it's just, and, who doesn't know, somebody that was started off in band in high school and, and then quit right after high school and never picked up the instrument again, so you got to have some kind of, it's more than just the time spent. It's the passion for it and the constant coming back to it.
Yeah. Okay. So Red Pill family, this is Cole Stanfield. I didn't do your introduction. He is an industry veteran. And the irony behind it is we're both alumni of the same high school and we didn't know each other.
Yep.
And yet I know of his work for many years because he's been around people that I knew. And he is a gentleman that has extensive experience in post production, pre production, production, in front and behind the scenes,
Every place.
as well as a prolific songwriter, musician, and
Thank you.
singer.
Thank you very
And
much.
this is one of the reasons why I think Cole and I will be able to kind of discuss this in depth regards to how artificial intelligence is now infiltrating on the level of where someone who does not have to have any talent whatsoever and create a piece of work that can go on the Billboard charts, million views, thousands of downloads, in literally no time invested other than just the thought of creation. So let's start with that, Cole.
Okay.
What is your thoughts behind artificial intelligence in music production?
Well, I take a pretty practical approach to AI in general. You know, I mean, I'm always fascinated with brand new tools. So for me, I mean, going back to, you know, just learning how production tricks worked in the studio, learning that, you know, certain singers that I absolutely loved and was like, how did they get that tone? How did they get that good? Finding out that they punched every single line in the studio, you know?
Right.
So I take kind of a real practical approach to even something like AI. I mean, I look at it as a tool, simply a tool. And if you use AI as a tool, as part of your workflow, and it is just a simple part of that tool, then it's productive and it can grow and it can help your songwriting, can teach you things, it can do anything like that. If that's your only thing that you use, or even as a songwriter, as an experienced songwriter, if you use that as a crutch, your muscle, you know, your songwriting muscle is gonna dwindle. You know, I mean, every time you write a new song or every time you try to come up with a rhyme or a phrase or something like that that you haven't used before, you know, in my work, I constantly try to get away from the word mind and brain and stuff like that, because I use those all the time. So, you know, just using that muscle is a constant need, I think, as a songwriter. So I think there are going to be people and songwriters that are going to use it as a crutch and probably, you know, lose a bit of that muscle memory is when it comes to songwriting.
Oh, no doubt. Well, you know, I did some research, of course, you know, before their show, just to kind of look at how much is this has infiltrated into the system. And the infiltrated system, I want everybody to kind of understand, we're talking about decades of music production that comes from professionals turning knobs and having talent to come in a room. Okay. And let's just take something back as early as, you know, let's say the late 40s, early 50s, the advent of rock and roll. Let's just start with that. Okay. So when you got somebody who was like Bo Diddley, Chuck Berry coming into the studio, they're not knowing, you know, what the process is. Just understanding that I'm going to play my music instrument and sing my song that they sat in a hotel room or, you know, in their house or whatever it was, to become this creative aspect of
absolutely
feeling. I have this pulse, you know, I'm going to write a story because my cousin or because of my girlfriend, and that came. Right. So that then started to grow into an industry where now sound engineers start to get training, start to develop through experience. Now, let's take a look at the early 60s and going into British invasion and so forth. You know, we got guys like Jeff Emmerich, who worked behind George Martin, who's at Abbey Road Studios, running a 3-track tape thing to record classical music, TV, you know, bumpers and things like that, until we never done rock and roll. So, okay, we'll try these 4 lads from Liverpool.
Yeah.
And that created a whole entire ball game for everybody, to the point where multi-track recording, thank you, Les Paul, that came into the advent of the studio saying, hey, you don't have to play everything live. We can do this, put it on 2-track, open up and bounce it over, and then create an open track again. And then we can put stuff over it.
And that led to albums like Sgt. Pepper's and all that good, you know, all that crazy stuff.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. And, you know, all of a sudden performance wasn't just from the artist anymore. right?
Yeah.
We can all
No,
agree
for sure.
performers now is a whole entourage of the producer, the
I
engineer,
consider an engineer and a producer another member of the band, 100%.
easily. That's right. Because seriously, for all the Beatle fans out there, would they had the kind of career with the sounds that they came up with if George Martin wasn't in the equation?
For sure.
Right? It would be
Yeah.
different. Same thing with Van Halen. I'm a big Van Halen fan. If it wasn't for Don Landy and Ted Templeman, would that band would have sound the way we embrace what Van Halen became?
No, 100%. I mean, members, in fact, I just talked to a friend the other day who is in the same boat I am sometimes when you're writing songs by yourself. And I mean, when you involve another person, it just brings so much more to the table. I mean, it takes you away from your own mistakes. If you do an album by yourself where you play every instrument, all you hear is the mistakes.
Yeah. Well, because we're very critical of ourselves.
Yeah.
We understand what we hear in our head. Sometimes we can't really nail it. But then, you know what? Since the 90s, we started to understand non-linear destructive editing using digital. Although it didn't sound quite as warm back then, things has, of course, evolved.
Definitely got better. Yeah. No, yeah.
But at the same time, I learned from a very early direction of DAW, which is digital audio workstations, that I can go in and find my mistake, that one note, open that sucker up, cut it out, no razor blades, no cutting tapes, and then insert a note. And the best thing about it is, if I have that note already played somewhere else in the solo, I could just float that note right there and plug it in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Well, and that even goes to this whole point of AI, which is AI is making music perfect and homogenizing it in some way. I mean, it even it happens in genres of music. It happened in the 80s, hair metal. It happens in the country nowadays. Homogenized music has become this perfection. There's perfect music. And AI is able to create that perfect music for you. It can make some mistakes too, but the beauty of the natural and the songwriter and some of those old recordings and even some of the new recordings you hear now are the mistakes.
That's
And you have to have a critical mind to leave those mistakes in and hear them for what they are, which is a natural vocal or a natural, instead of auto-tuning everything and making it all perfect. I mean, that's what our ears want to hear. That's why AI is doing so well. They want to hear that perfect song.
Well, it depends, I think, also on the fan base, okay, and not the
100%.
audience. Because let's be realistic about here. Pop music isn't designed for our age group.
Right.
It's already left us a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the things that I think that not having any kind of musical experience and only have a creator's creative thought. Okay, I want to write a song about this girl in a bar. So I'm going to plug this sucker in. I'm just going to give a brief description. And it's going to come back to me as good as anything that I have ever heard on a record. But whose record?
Yeah.
What era? What tonality?
Right.
Right? Do I have someone like Chet Atkins playing the guitar? Or is this somebody that we just homogenize to the point where we can't identify a personality into this song anymore?
Right. And in some ways, that's the way it is, right? That's the AI music I hear. I mean, I hear what was the I forget the name of it, but there was the country song that hit the #1 digital down, playbacks or downloads or whatever. Yeah. And it was, it sounds like a modern day country song, but it is so generic when it comes to lyrics that you just kind of go, no real, I mean, with few exceptions, but no real songwriter would have let that get out that way. They would have put some of their own character and their own, feelings into it. So, you know.
Well, on the Billboard charts, digital song #1 in sales, "Walk My Walk."
Walk My Walk. Yeah, that's it. I think that's it. Yeah. And
So-
if you've heard it, have you heard it? Have you listened to it?
No.
It is. I mean, well, it's worth listening to just from a standpoint of studying it. You know, because it's it's like it's a generic Johnny Cash style.
Sure.
Kind of you kind of nostalgia wise, you kind of go, okay, I get it. I see it. Here it is.
Right.
But it is it's homogenized. I mean, it really is. I mean, the licks are generic. The lyrics are terrible, but not terrible. I mean, I really do think that that with AI music and stuff, that there's gonna end up being two revenue streams. I heard this the other day on me studying for this too, and listening to some podcasts about it, stuff like that.
Right.
I really do think there's going to end up being two revenue streams. One is going to be this homogenized generic music that's going to be on background and commercials. It's going to be all over. Maybe it is going to make it to the charts. If somebody likes a song, they like a song. Who knows why? Yeah,
sure.
But there's also going to be a revenue stream of musicians out there trying to make it, and almost like back to a roots, like where you're going to love the band for the characters in the band, the people in the band, and the personal songs that they're creating, and really get to know that kind of, almost back to the Kiss, fan days, the Kiss Army, where, you're going to have these fan bases, and it goes that way right now anyway, right? The best way you can promote yourself is just try and, drum up, a fan base of your own that follows you on every album, and every album you put out, they go, this is great. I love it. I'm buying it, or whatever. I mean, that's more effective than any, that grassroots thing is more effective than anything else you can possibly do. I mean, let's say you do get to the number one streaming, song up to the charts are there. How much are you making? You're not making that much. I can tell you.
Not at all. Right.
I make more from selling 5 albums at or 5 CDs. Well, I say CDs nowadays, but
sure.
Back in the day, I made sell 5 CDs, and I made more than I made all my streaming last year of all my albums.
Right. Yeah. Streaming pay is less than 1 cent.
Yeah.
And most people are not familiar with, wow, let's say one of the most downloads of Peter Frampton's, Do You Feel Like We Do? Guy made $5,000.
Yeah.
Out of millions and millions of downloads.
Yeah.
And that to me, it's disrespectful.
Well, it's interesting because the culture to stream your music via Spotify and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, even the best friends of mine, they'll say, hey, I listened to your album again today. I put you on my playlist, all that stuff like that.
Yeah.
They don't realize that going and buying a digital download from Bandcamp or something like that is a lot more valuable to a musician, being part of or even interacting on their TikTok or whatever in some ways is more valuable than just streaming that song a couple times a day.
Right. Oh, I agree 100%. That's why, when I find an artist, like for instance, when we first started getting to know each other and so forth, I listened to your music and kind of sampled it and went, hey, that's a good track. I love this. So I would buy the album, just like if we were back in the days walking into Cactus or anything, flipping through and go, hey, that's a great cover.
Yeah. I mean, I still to this day, if I find a song like 9 times out of 10, the songs I find now are some kind of, in the back of a movie somewhere at the end of somewhere, I immediately go to it, I Shazam it, and I buy the $1.29 or whatever it is on iTunes right now, because I know that's getting them $1.29 directly to the artist, or at least a portion, 70% or whatever their cut is. And, versus me looking for it on my streaming service or something like that, I mean, it makes so much more sense to me.
Right. And I just think the general public doesn't really understand that how you support your artist is how they can have a career.
No, that's it. Yeah. And it's getting harder and harder,
Oh, no doubt. Because the touring system's gone. Back in the days when you can bust your hump, get noticed, get a development deal, then get put on a major tour as an opening act to be developed. And then you get the middle slot for 45 minutes, 40 minutes, and the second to third album. Yeah. And hopefully by then you've primed yourself enough to be a headliner.
Yeah.
That system went away by 2010, I think.
Yeah.
Most
bands I know they're selling their swag. That's how they're making their money,
And that's sad because you know what? When you look at even the major players, we're talking about guys that used to sell out 12,000, 15,000 seaters 2-3 nights in a row, now are doing 4,000, 5,000 seaters.
Yeah.
And what can you do?
It's
there's
interesting.
There's a couple of things I think it actually destroyed the touring thing. Number one, production and insurance. It became stupid expensive.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because think about it. The days where we can go get an $8 ticket, it's non-existent.
Oh yeah. I mean, and even the companies that are, and that comes from the fact, I work in the production world, right? So that comes from the fact that the companies that even provide the gear, have to walk in with a $2 million policy. They have to,
Sure.
they just to have their own insurance, just because in
Right.
case something happens, so, I mean, the expense to put on those productions is crazy.
Yeah. And then what they just keep on passing those, costs to
Yeah.
the fan base.
Yeah.
But however, there's one evil, the dark force that is the broker. As I'm not going to name names, but if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
If you know, you know, right?
Yeah.
Because they're the
Well,
master of their domain.
Well, and they're beholden to their shareholders, so I mean they have to answer, so it's all goes up the line just like it always does.
Sure.
They have to answer to somebody too.
Yeah. Well, as an artist, let's say if I pulled up, my bust and I'm getting paid X with my agreement, then I look at the ticket, I'm realizing that X of my agreement's only about 35% of what my fan base is paying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And about
Yeah.
50% of that ticket price serves the master.
Yeah.
It doesn't serve anything in my production, anything on the tour, or anything on my label.
Yeah.
Which I, as an artist, have to pay back.
Right. Well, it makes sense why, the smaller productions are kind of, the way to go. I mean, I personally love a smaller show. I mean, if I'm going in as a fan to watch somebody, if I can watch them in a 50 seater, I mean, that's the most exclusive thing. I mean, I think, even that's going to be a revenue stream for, people that can actually play their instruments, is to be able to go in and do these exclusive things that where,
right.
You're doing a 50-person show or a private show at their house or whatever like that. I mean, I know a lot of artists that go around and make money doing that, so, I mean, like it goes back to that dual revenue stream. You're going to have this generic revenue stream that, maybe some of the generic songwriters, maybe some of the jingle writers or whatever, are going to, be replaced by AI, but, AI is never going to replace that private show in your living room. I mean, there are some, I mean, especially with YouTube out there. I mean, some of my favorite bands in the world, I see them playing in the living room. I'm like, oh my God, if I could have been there,
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, that's the thing, I mean, let's really get back to this AI idea of you don't have to have musical investments. In other words, you don't have to be refining an art. You don't even have to understand music at all. Just write me something. We'll put it out there and it's going to sound great because of all these components is going to do it for you. Now, as someone who's trained in music, I find that extremely disappointing. I think it's actually somewhat disgusting because as a songwriter, let's say we're working on a piece and it's just not moving. And I'm going, you know what? And I tell you the reason why this piece doesn't move, because there's no resolution on that piece toward the end. So instead resolving on the 4, you need to come back to the flat second to resolve back to root.
Sure.
Who's going to know this?
Right.
Think about it.
Well, your producer would have.
Your producer would.
Or your second songwriter, right? So in some ways, like going back to the idea of AI being a tool, if you're using AI as a, like, hey, I've got the verse, I've got the chorus, I need a bridge. Right. And you go, man, where could I just go? Let me throw this, 4-song, riff into it and see where it takes that, it took it to the A, I'd never thought about that. So,
Right.
in that sense, I think that it's going to be necessary for us as songwriters to use it in that way. And to understand that, I mean, you can't be afraid of progress, in my opinion. If you are, you're going to get left out. I mean, I heard the other day that some of the major labels they're allowing their songwriters to turn in demos with using AI. So you could take their song, they could put it into the AI, they could produce it and see, this is how it's going to sound. But the song was written by the songwriter, or at least, 80% of it or whatever it was, who knows what truly it is. But, and then they can send it, and then that record label or whatever, or a person searching for songs somewhere can say, okay, what would it sound like with so-and-so playing it? What would it sound like with so-and-so playing it? So there's going to be some use of it like that. I know that in Nashville, some of the songwriters are using it already in that way. So like I said, if it's a tool, it's progress. If it extinguishes all the ability to write music, I just don't think it's going to. I mean, I've heard a lot of it and I've played with it, and it's just, when you use it and you start, even you become the producer of it, right?
Yep.
So not are you just writing lyrics or sitting there saying write a song about my my dog that passed away when he was 13 or whatever. You're basically saying, okay, I like that. Now let me go in and make it my story. Let me go in and take that and say, okay, my dog was named Biffy, and let's put Biffy in there. Let's put those little things that AI just can't do. Yeah. At that point, you're becoming the producer of that thing. So in some ways, you're doing some work on it and you're investing in it in time. That generic prompt music, it's going to be out there. It already is, and it's gonna do its thing, and there's no stopping it. But
no question that the artificial intelligence is in our society. It's not going away. It's like Josh and I had a conversation on the Fringe about it's opening Pandora's box. You can't put it back in. Yeah. But let's look at the bigger history of this. When the advent of drum machine came in.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say all that stuff. There's a lot. I mean, you think about it back in the day when the 80s bands were coming out. Part of this, in some ways, is nothing but bands' reaction to needing to be perfect. I mean, I can't tell you how many live shows I did, and the guy goes, the band itself came to me and said, "Hey, man, you sound a little rough tonight." I'm like, "Yeah, I sang last night for 4 hours. What can I do?" Right. So I mean, I can recall back in the day, so many people saying, "Oh, so and so sounds terrible live," and especially me being a singer, I was like, well, he was struggling. I mean, what can you say? I mean, I heard it, but I enjoyed listening to it and seeing, oh, wow, I liked how he adjusted or went down there instead of up there or whatever. If in some ways the education of the consumer or at least the consumer back in the day caused this perfection that needed to happen, or that happened, right? That happened with the producers going in and punching in every line. So, I mean, that the desire to have that exists, and that's why AI is going to be there.
Oh yeah. And that's the thing, that we can't ignore it. But what I'm looking at is this going to deter to the point where folks are not going to want to invest their time to refine? Because seriously, let's be really honest about this. To be a proficient musician playing a guitar or something, unless you're just a freak of nature, it's going to take a couple of years to be proficient.
Yeah. But
right?
are you saying that you think that people aren't going to want to pursue music at all because they can produce it with AI?
Yeah, I see a lot of this already, because I'll share this to the audience here.
Yeah.
I was in the education business and teaching guitar, private lessons and all that since the 80s. I got into the piano business in the 2000s. So I'm around professors, I'm around world-class pianists and so forth. And I can see the decline of the investment of parents to their children.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
About learning music instrument, because number one, cost factor. Mm-hmm. We can go on a vacation and supposed to buy a piano. Well, the piano is going to change your kid.
Yeah.
They don't think like this.
Yeah.
Right.
But those of us that pick up an instrument, and you can speak to this too, right? When you pick up an instrument, there was something that just in your hands, you were like, oh, this is something I can really, that I don't know, there's something tactile, and there's something like identity. I use it a lot, but identity that you say, oh, I could imagine me being at the end, going, hey, I'm a musician, and I want people to think of me as a musician. So I don't think that'll go away. I mean, it especially if they find that one instrument that they go, hey, I might be good at this,
Yeah.
So
I hope so.
Yeah.
Well, because the fact that, let's look at it. We're at the very beginning of artificial intelligence producing entire songs that sounds like we sat down in a $100,000 studio and turning knobs and all that. And this is a $250,000 project. I mean, this thing is sounding as good as that. Yeah. But I blame a lot of this starting from, like the advent of the drum machine, MIDI to sequence everything. But the worst thing that started happening is when producers start to copy other productions that was selling, and they're just regurgitating that sound.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Auto-tune was a huge aspect of screwing up how mainstream music sounded.
Yeah. Well, or more importantly, how the audience expected it to sound, right? Because they liked it. Who
But
doesn't
the
like
audience, you can
perfection?
give them anything you want and you just pound it into them, they'll like it.
Yeah, but there is
That's my
something.
argument about
Yeah.
this, Cole, that if you think about this, okay, the radio and the record company has a relationship. I worked at Warner Brothers and I personally saw a lot of shit that was just really and didn't have any chance of making it until the record company put effort
Push it.
into make this happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, look at grunge when it took off. You know, you would go,
Yeah.
"What was that? That was just badly played instruments." And then you get exposed to it enough, and you start going, "Oh, okay, I see what they're talking about. They're talking about the feeling. They're talking about the grit. They're talking about the,
Sure.
you know, yeah,
But that's also pounding you 24/7.
yeah."
You know,
sure.
I'll give you the perfect example. Fine Young Cannibals came out, what, 90 something? And She Drives Me Crazy song.
Right.
Dude looks like an alien from another planet. They get on SNL and they're doing this song. He's up there and I'm just going, what the hell is this? Are you kidding me? She drives me crazy. And this thing was pounded on radio every day for 3-4 months.
Yeah.
Where are they at today?
Yeah.
You know, but they sold the living crap out of a lot of units.
Well, hopefully they made enough money, and that's what they're enjoying it. That's
right.
That's what they are.
So for me, I already understand. You want to make a hit, we can make whatever that's cohesive, just a simple enough message. In regards to the genre, regardless the instrumentation and mix down or mastering of this. Once we get something that people can just go, oh, that sounds kind of stupid. Oh, well, that sounds okay. And there's enough beating in your head.
Right. Get stuck. Yeah.
Pretty soon you're just like going, oh, you know, I kind of like
sure.
that song. I mean, what is the Macarena? Tell me about that. Seriously. What is the Macarena?
It was the hell of a dance.
But it was beat into the society.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
So we already kind of know that songs are made. And if there's an artist that the label or the industry decides that they want you to embrace this.
For sure.
Right.
Yep.
Because seriously, if they would have pounded Little Richard, would Little Richard have been just as big as Elvis?
Yeah. I mean, I think, but Little Richard was just, I mean, if I was lucky enough to see him live, you know, that was, I was lucky enough to do work one of his shows.
Yeah.
He was just an entertainer, like old school crooner entertainers. He was just, it was so, you know, interesting to watch him. And he was just, and this was at the end, but he was, you could just see, you know, you really could see, oh, wow, that's, I bet him back in his day. Oh my God, you wouldn't have been able to take your eyes off of him.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, so when we look at the opportunity of creativity, and this is the biggest thing, the bugaboo I have about artificial intelligence, it's that the creativity from the organic artistry of ourselves, our expression. And I'm a huge Bruce Lee fan. Everybody out there, go read Dao Jacunda. It's about expression. It's about art of self-awareness, right?
Yeah.
You take that away. You give them a tool that says, you don't need to be aware. You just need to be understanding, be in the moment to work this jelly. And then we'll take care of the rest. If we let generations go with this, where do you think we're going to end up in sense of self-expression?
I think you'll end up with the just like the two coins, right? You're going to end up with this path where people just, I mean, you know, no offense, but there's some people's music that I go, man, I don't know how you really, you know, I mean, I'm a fan of all kinds of music, but you know, I mean, some of the, I don't want to badmouth anybody, but some things are so generic. I just like, even though they come from an artist that I go, I can't listen to it. You know,
Sure.
I mean, some of the rock stuff back in the day, it got so candy apple that I was just like, oh my God, I can't do it. It doesn't have any flavor. It doesn't have any taste, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that I'm not hurt by the fact that if that is filled by AI, I don't, that stuff never turned me on anyway. You know, send me to a jazz bar at a corner and let me watch this guy play with the bass player and let me learn something from him, you know, as a musician. So, you know, I mean, I'm not threatened by that generic side of the music, even though that's what sold. That's what sells. Like you said, they put it down your throat and that's what sells to the masses. And you know, I mean, but even back then, the record labels were making the money.
Yeah.
It wasn't the artist. I got so many artists and friends that got signed to a major label here and there, and
Yep.
you know what, they're doing the same thing I'm doing right now. They're writing albums with me. So
Yeah. Yeah.
they're, I mean, if you were in a band and you lived 10 years off of your touring, let's say you toured for 2 or 3 years on an album, or 1 or 2 albums,
Right.
and you made it a living for 10 years, you're lucky. You're really lucky.
Oh, no question. I agree with you 100% on that. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, if you look at some of the people that are still touring, why are they still touring?
Yeah.
Well, I love the
They need
music.
the money.
I love the fan base. Yeah. No, you need the money, pal. Because
It is.
realistically,
Yeah.
you're playing House of Blues.
Yeah.
Let's
No,
not
it's
kid
true.
ourselves
It's
here.
true. And I'll go see them anytime, because they're playing in the smaller venues.
Right.
I
So
can't afford.
now let's take a generation that's now using artificial intelligence. They don't know how to play their instrument, but they can write this song and then create a product, create a brand, right?
Yeah.
Know how to market, know how to
Yep.
get on social media,
Yep.
know how to play this, game of getting known. Okay, where's the touring?
Right. Well,
How are you going to do that?
The people that know how to play their instruments and can get out and play those songs that they put out, those
Yep.
are the people that are going to last and maybe even last. The people that, like, let's say, for instance, you put out a great a great AI song, and people love it, but you can't get out there and do it in front of people. I mean, then all you're left with is those streams. Because those people that are listening to that aren't going to buy an album, or that maybe they'll buy an album, but they're probably going to stream it. They don't know enough. So where are you going to make your money? From those streams? Good luck. Good luck.
Right. Right. And that's the part where the industry, to me, is going to crash, because the life support, I mean, let's be really serious. The life support's not even here now. Right.
Yeah.
When I look at some of the TikToks and Instagrams, and I see bands that's out there doing festivals, and they're going, we're booked in front of this polo ground, whatever the ground they're doing the shows, they're playing in front of 20 people. And I'm just blown away. This huge production, like Houston, we have Screamfest. For those of you in Houston, Texas, know Screamfest. It's this thing that comes around Halloween, and it's got this big, huge stage, great lighting, everything's set up. It used to be hundreds, if not thousands, of people go to this. And for about the last close to a decade, I'm watching stragglers of 5 to 10 people in front of the so-called band. And you know how disheartening that is to the performer?
Yeah. Well, they'll be replaced by the AI performer pretty soon. They'll be replaced by the hologram.
Right. I mean, are we now starting to go wait until Elon Musk starts sending out bands of bots?
Well, I mean, they have that band that used to go to NAMM all the time that was all robots. That would be a great show. I'd go watch it.
Yeah,
but I mean, I know in Japan they're doing like some of those characters or whatever from that they're doing some like full on hologram performances and selling out stadiums and stuff.
Right.
So like I said, that's another stream. That's not something I'd go see.
No.
But if there's a group of people that want to go out and partake in that, then more power to them. I mean, that's if that's kind of entertainment that they want to enjoy for that night. Now, hopefully the next weekend they'll go out and see their good friend that plays an acoustic guitar at the local restaurant. Hopefully that's balanced.
But that's the bummer part about it. The pianist that's playing in the restaurant, the guitar player that's doing the solo gig. There's no more Jim Croce. There's no more Billy Joel.
They're out there. They're out there. You gotta.
They're out there.
You just got to know.
But what we're talking about in the sense of the opportunity to make something in sense of the business. If you keep on taking that pie,
I see what you're saying.
keep on cutting it, and you're going, hey, hologram shows at the Sphere is taking this piece of pie.
Right.
The so-called the festivals of playing these homogenized songs is taking this piece of pie. The old hats like Motley Crue and, bands like that is taking this piece of pie. So now you tell me, an inspired 18-year-old kid who's been practicing his butt off because his influence was something organic, like Edward Van Halen, like Jimi Hendrix, like Jimmy Page. He wants to be able to take that level of musicality into mainstream. His opportunity has shrunk because the timing is gone.
It has, but his opportunities also, if he's creative enough, the opportunities to expose himself to all those revenue streams are there. So you have a chance to, maybe you put out some generic stuff that's under a different name. Maybe you put out this under, maybe you perform to some specific venues that are, you personally live, playing to tracks or whatever it is for your fan base of the people. So I think it's definitely, as a musician, you're going to have to be able to partake in all those revenues. You're going to have to be able to do it all.
So that's almost like investing in Wall Street, isn't it? Now you have to diversify.
You have to diversify.
You can't just get your money in.
Yeah. But I mean, but there's always been those people that were part of it all, right? I mean, John Bon Jovi was a great businessman, right? He wasn't just the artist, right? He was a businessman too. So there are those people that partake in those, and those are the people that last a long time. They're people that can go with the technology and still find a way to make a living.
Yeah. And I think that's the big part of the art versus the business.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The hardest part is to be able to be so passionate about the art, at the same time have a sound-minded logistics and in the kind of work ethic to run the business.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part. That is a huge part, and you're absolutely correct that it's the hard part.
And there, I tell you what, a lot of the bands that did get signed to labels, there was one person in the band that was or one or two people that wrote the songs, and they were the real creative people. They were the real they were a little more flaky or whatever, but there was always that businessman. There was always the guy that went out and got the gigs, that had the email list, and even if they got in another band. 9 times out of 10, it was the bass player, by the way. but
there's truth to that.
Exactly. But they had those lists. They like. I mean, I remember begging one person I knew that had that list, and I was like, "Man, I really," and he shared it with me, and it was a handwritten notebook.
Wow.
That we went and photocopied. So I had all these, these contacts to be able to set up my own tour around Texas or whatever it was,
Yeah.
And now me being the business guy, I have never reached out and never got in touch with them.
Yeah. Running the business aspect of it is a tough thing. Cause I did that. I ran my own label early 2000s, and we toured Texas on our own. Everything was out of our own pocket, but everything we took in was in our own pocket, So that was the payoff. Not having to be a slave to a label, because I've seen that, and it's actually destroys you in a sense of the artistic integrity as a musician when you are being pushed. It's like being a salesman that you have to constantly meet your sales goals.
Right. Yeah. It takes the any artistic endeavors out of it. Right.
Yeah. Because you're constantly focusing on the numbers. And this is, I definitely wanted to bring this point up about the organicness versus the artificial intelligence, that a lot of folks today don't know really the history of production, history of creativity. Like, we talked about Sgt. Pepper. Sgt. Pepper was groundbreaking.
Yeah.
Because it really changed the landscape.
About like that and Pet Sounds and all those ones that were just they were. I mean, I think I heard the other day that, the first few Beatle albums were probably recorded over 1 or 2 days. And then Sgt. Pepper's took over 1,000 hours.
Easily. Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, that shows you what they were trying to do with it in comparison.
Oh, no doubt. In sense of the effort changed. It shifted from let's do this live take and then call it a day to let's do this live take 40 times and pick the best one and then start to build, put the frosting on
experimenting.
Yeah. And the one thing that I want to bring up is Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced? Because here's a guy who was basically a blues guitar player in America, pushing the envelope, pushing the edge. And he went over to England, and they saw something about that they said, let's get you involved and do something a little bit more groundbreaking. And when I say groundbreaking is that these guys, with the meeting of Eddie Kramer, who was his engineer, sitting down and reversing tape, flipping tape reels, grabbing tape to do flanging, these are things that they were doing in a room to say, how can we alter the sonic value of what we put on tape to create a soundscape, a vision.
Another instrument. Yeah.
Oh, and this is the part that has always gotten to me is that I study Hendrix extensively because I was in a Hendrix tribute band as a bass player. But the thing is, I really loved Hendrix growing up. And by the time in the 2000s and on, Hendrix music kind of got lost because of the advent of guitar has evolved so much. Most folks did not understand that the level of the distortion modern guitar sound didn't really arrive until our experience. Right. And that literally made everybody go, what? And then the way that he presented his melodies and his chord alterations and inversions, these were things that very seldomly heard in rock. You heard it in jazz. You heard it in some blues, right? Some country even. The hammer on six and things like that. So today in 2000 and on, I would read a lot of comments from folks like Hendrix sucks. Hendrix is out of tune. Hendrix is, and you're just kind of going, you know, if you only knew what he brought to the table.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Right.
Yeah.
Same thing with Edward Van Halen. A lot of people are like, I was better. Randy Rhoads, Randy Van Halen. It doesn't matter. You got to look at what he brought to the table.
I did. Yeah, for sure. I did hear this the other day on which I thought was pretty encouraging, and I thought was a cool thought in the process of like royalties and stuff like that when it comes to AI.
Right.
And that was to almost like for these sonic sounds to have kind of a value in themselves.
Yeah.
And they were talking about putting out like these kind of AI bots that could go out and kind of see the origins of these sounds and where they might have come from. And this might sound disturbing in some way, but in a way I was like, well, that seems like kind of a fair way to do it, which is if you're determined to be close enough to a Jimi Hendrix song, part of those micro royalties from the streaming would go back to these artists that created these songs and these sounds.
Wow.
So it would be this sense of, I mean, in some ways it sounds like, you know, crazy that somebody could come in and just take it. But in some ways it's like, well, okay, if you back in the day, I mean, look at all the arguments with when sampling came around, you know, you did more than 8 measures. We're going to take some of your royalties and it's going to go to this person that you took 8 measures from.
Yeah.
So if they do that on a micro level of, you know, almost like Bitcoin, you know, where it's a cryptology kind of, you know, token that like I was thinking the other day, okay, what if I wrote a song that had a cool sound, a cool scream in it, cool, you know, metal scream in it or something like that.
That's right.
And then somebody were to take that, manipulate it and use it as a sample, but it's not 8 measures, but then somehow that idea or that sound or that thing became tokenized in some way that maybe depending on where it ended up, I don't even have to chase it down. It just comes back to me in some ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, in micro, just little micro bits, but enough of those micro bits, you know, might make my catalog worth something someday.
Well, you know, I'm glad that if they're going down that direction, it's well deserved because number one, you can't take other people's stuff and just call it your own.
Right.
And that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Right. When sampling came out, especially Tone Loc taking the Van Halen riff, you know, everybody heard that and went, wait a minute here. You're doing Jamie's Crying.
But then there's a lot of bands that, I mean, Led Zeppelin got away with it for years. You know what I mean? So, you know, so that, you know, there's 2 sides to that story too.
Yeah. Well, Led Zeppelin eventually had to pay up.
Yeah. They eventually got,
you know, but at the same time, when you look at Led Zeppelin, I mean, you're talking about an entirely a different animal, right?
Oh, yeah.
Here's a guy, and you know, of course, for the conversations on the Fringe, my Red Pill family here, we all know Black Magic was all over this sucker, you know. For Jimmy Page to do what he did to create those sonic values on those Zeppelin records was one thing. But for him to take it to a live experience where you bought a Led Zeppelin ticket, you saw 3 hours of this incredible approach toward music and improvisation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
to me,
that's an era of music that to me was so influential just from the standpoint of like, that live, you know, I mean, I studied those old live performances. I mean, even going back to like, you know, what was the big 80s live, or what was it? I don't know. Triumph was on it. I can't remember it offhand, but live,
You're talking about
live eight. It was a big like a
Us
weekend
Festival?
us festival. I own that thing, and I just watch it over and over. I figured, man, these guys are just doing just. I mean, that's where I wanted to be. Right? Was these people that could pull it off? These people that could, you know, Triumph could pull off a 3-piece for God's sake and make it sound that incredible. You know, so.
Sure.
You know, there's always going to be those people you find that are inspiring, and I don't think that's going to go away.
I hope not, because, you know, because like we've said already, that live shows and touring is suffering, you know, and I can see it. The new generation, the entertainment business is always about the new generation, you know, in as much as you and I can sit here and argue and bellyache and all this of saying it used to be such a great day, you know, now get off my lawn, you know?
Yeah.
We romance that because you know what? I'm sure you have those experiences when you walked on stage when you were a young man, it was hundreds, if not thousands.
Yeah, I think we got.
Where today you walk in there, it's like 50, and you're kind of going, "This is a good crowd."
I don't know. I've always, for me, yeah, exactly. 50 is a good crowd, but I actually, I prefer that actually. You know, I mean, there is definitely a world that it takes you into when you're performing to a mass, but there is something, that intimate thing where you can just catch somebody's eye and see that they're really enjoying or singing the song with you or something like that. That's a little more intimate that I actually prefer, but you know.
Well, you're a singer-songwriter.
Yeah.
You have a different,
at heart,
different thing that you get back from it. I'm a heavy metal guitarist, you know, a hard rock guitarist. I miss standing in front of 1,000 people and just being able to play something in my hand and then point and everybody would be roaring. You know what I mean?
Those times are, I mean, they're definitely, they definitely feed you.
Yeah. There's nothing like it. You know, it's like taking a shot in a game-winning shot in a basketball game.
Yeah.
It's like hitting a walk-off home run.
That's a good, exactly.
Right.
I was a swimmer, so I guess that explains a lot.
Sure. Well, you know, for all of us, we all have, I think, individual experiences that we embrace, especially when we work hard at something for so long and seeing it fruiting. Right. And I'm really
getting that recognition, right? So that you're like, okay, I've spent that time and it's paying off in some way. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's your validation.
Yeah.
Because all the times I sat in my bedroom on the edge of that bed, spinning the record player with my fingertip and listening to those songs, you know, and figuring it out, because there was no YouTube, there was no tab, there was none of that. This is how we learned songs back in the 70s and 80s. And to have the validation of the audience give it back to you. Yeah. Because you pulled it off perfectly, or you pulled it off where they're enjoying it.
Oh yeah. Just to hear that first time. I remember playing the high school talent show and hearing the crowd, you know, it's like, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where, you know, that's kind of start to really fall apart, you know? Yeah. I mean, seriously, if you're a great pianist and you study in a conservatory and so forth, finally you get to do a recital in front of 200 people. That is your apex. That's your summit. Unless you become the Philharmonic pianist feature, you know, Lang Lang, you know, things like that. It just doesn't have that kind of opportunities, I think, to be able to become, number one, a career move. Yeah. Number two, the satisfaction of the artistry that pushes you to the next level. Because every time I played in front of an audience that I thought there was incredible feedback, it made me just go, okay, I got to top this. Yeah. I got to top that. And then of course, when you saw folks that was, you know, on the peer level, and this is a funny part that I will tell the Red Pill audience, a lot of people didn't know, is that today we have so many people that are so great at playing guitar, playing piano, playing. When I was growing up, if you could play Van Halen pretty damn close to Edward Van Halen, you were exception to the rule, right?
Yeah, no, sure, yeah. You were the guitar player everybody wanted.
Oh, no question. I walk into Cardi's back in the day, everybody go, hey, you know, because they saw me do something that very few people did. Same thing with Dimebag, back when he was Diamond Daryl. People used to love Daryl because he was able to do all these greatness and crazy stuff in the early to mid 80s that
Right.
nobody really saw unless you went to see a Kiss concert, went to a Van Halen concert, went to see Metallica. You're right.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure.
that
Yeah.
to me it's the part that you start to have the separation between, can I be a professional musician or am I living a pipe dream? And then of course guys like Yngwie showed up, which kicked it up. Now if you can be that level of peer, you can play that type of accuracy and speed, then all of a sudden you're just not like the other guys anymore. And that became a measuring stick. Today, you can be right up there with Yngwie. We've seen 7, 8-year-olds doing this.
I know, it's nuts. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But where's the feel? Where's the spirit?
Yeah.
Right. They're regurgitating off the piece.
And going back to that, I don't think that AI is ever going to truly have that. Right. Because I think I believe that something comes through from performance.
Yes.
In music and in recordings, that just is the soul comes through. Yeah. The soul comes through. And until AI gets its own soul, it's going to be trying to fool you with other people's, version of it. So, yeah.
Okay. So now let me ask you this. Let's take really to the personal level. You as a singer-songwriter and very diverse. This is why I love your work, is that I don't put on one record and in the next record, I'm going to get the same, that was Back in Black and this is now For Those About to Rock, right?
Right.
It's the same thing over and over and over.
Right.
For you is like, okay, this is when Cole was feeling this. This is when Cole was feeling that.
Yeah.
If you had that song that you wrote and just went, me, you know what? This is me. This is my moment. And you put it out there and everybody goes, yeah, that's really good. That's great. And then somebody who just artificially created a song because they just had an idea and a few lines, and that's on par to the audience because they don't know any better. How does that affect you in sense of how you embrace this?
Well, it's a good question because, ultimately my answer is simple because even though I do love, what people listen to my music and comment and give me feedback. Ultimately, music for me is just about the expression. It's a way to get things out. It's a way to say things. It's a way to, get better at my craft, to figure out it's the poetry. It's the how to, learn how to do a story song. And I remember the first time I was like, man, I want to do like a Poncho and Lefty or, one of those epic story songs. It's like writing a novel,
Right.
So for me, it's about learning that craft and it's all about learning it. So every time I do something, it's all about, hey, what can I do something new? That's why my stuff is semi-diverse. Hey, what haven't I done? I'm doing, my second country song on this RPM, this month. But, it's ultimately, I think that if you have an iconic, going back to the idea of tokenizing or being able to micro things, if you have a character that is iconic in some way and somebody does copy it, I think that you need to be compensated for it in some way. There has to be, they've got to figure out a way to do that. I think that if that were the case, like I said the other day, I forget, I was talking to somebody the other day. I said, it should be able to do, and it's probably close to there. I'm probably out there. Somebody can write in and let me know what it is. But what if I could take my catalog and ingest that into an AI system that was proprietary for me, that would put out Cole-like songs at the speed at which I can't even think about it. And I put out hundreds and hundreds of songs that are influenced by me. But then again, I can continually go into this source and into this and be the only influence and change even what it's putting out by putting in new materials.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy, but it might be a way it might be the future of musicians. I mean, I imagine, with the buyout and everything that's happening with Warner Brothers and Suno and all that stuff.
Right.
I can't imagine they aren't going to license certain people's style and monetize that for those artists. Right. Now how much they give to the artist versus how much the record company gets, I don't know, but I can't imagine they're not going to do that. They'd have to.
Let's say for every dollar, the artist gets what, 2 cents?
Probably 0.002 cents. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's going to pay my mortgage, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
and that's the sad part about the industry too. It's always been like this. Don't let anybody kid you that most of your people who's walking around rich, famous, and all that, a lot of them aren't.
Oh, that's so true.
They're
That's
getting
so
by.
true. Yeah.
They're getting by.
Well, and I mean, so many of them that live on, what do they call that? Borrow till the end or something. I forgot. There's a term for it. It's borrow for life and then die, leaving your your what you owe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the part about licensing. How about copyright and licensing? How do you actually being able to claim ownership? Because I wrote the line, last night at the bar, I saw the babe I love. Now there's a whole song on it.
Yeah.
Right. Now that it's got, million views, thousands download. So I'm going to make it into a physical mechanical product.
Yeah.
So therefore I can capitalize on that money.
Yeah.
Right. So seriously, the copyrights, is it to me?
Well, are you asking what the current state is? Because the current state is you can't copyright nothing that AI creates. You cannot get a copyright. In other words, the only copyrights that exist are human-made product. Now, if you wrote the lyrics, you could copyright those lyrics, even though AI sang it. You could copyright the melody, you can copyright the guitar riff or something like that. But anything that's created by AI, at least at this point to my knowledge, I could take it and start streaming it on my channel because I like the song and get the stream revenue from that same song.
Right.
Nobody, you can't, assuming that is purely an AI driven piece of work.
Right. Okay. So I got Suno to do a song for me. I came up with that line. Then I copyright the entire song saying, no, I wrote this. Who's going to tell me? Yeah. Seriously, is there anybody auditing this at Library of Congress?
Well, I guarantee AI will know pretty soon. Like I said, the AI will be able to go out and say, nope, here it is. You thought you erased it, but here it is.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's the part that I think we're in a lot of murky water for quite a while.
Oh, yeah. I think it's going to be, it's even a challenge. And I think especially as a songwriter, you have to be careful, right? So anything, if I'm going to work with AI or if I'm going to try to write something, like I'll give you a perfect example. It's funny, just on the way to this podcast today. Yeah. My old original band from high school, that we're throwing some of those old songs into to AI to see what AI will do with them. They said, and the AI is doing a great job of, kind of sticking to the original songs. And you're like, okay, that could, if we had, we weren't in high school and we had the money to really have produced it and we had worked with, some of the biggest producers in the world, it might have sounded like that. But even on that stream, everybody's going, well, ours was good. So it's not beating us. It's just making us sound better in some way. So, that's all fun. AI, especially the music of AI and creating stuff like that, is going to become an entertainment value to anybody, just like playing, your Candy Crush or whatever, throwing some funny lyrics in there and sending your girlfriend a song, funny Valentine's Day song is definitely going to be part of culture. You know what I mean?
Sure. Sure.
And so in that way, for entertainment value, it's a whole new revenue stream for, people that make, product like that.
Yeah. I think there's a level of the, like you said, the creativity of the entertainment value. It's there, like for instance, Neil Peart is no longer with us. And I love that drumming dearly,
Yeah.
I
the girl, she's doing a good job. She is. She's the one, man.
Well, there's only one Neil. There's only one Keith Moon. There's only one Edward Van Halen. So everybody's bringing their own. Yeah. And she's a excellent drummer. There's no question. Or she wouldn't be able to interpret that movement to excite Alex and Getty.
Yeah.
And that's really what it's all about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They have to connect with this.
No, for sure. And in some ways probably reignite some of their gusto and their kind of desire to maybe write some new stuff, So it's great. That's if bands that can move on. Look at ZZ Top, bands that can continue to work with, although that guy was as much a part of the band as anybody because he'd been with them so long, but
sure.
That's fantastic. I think when bands can continue to work.
Yeah. Well, even for, like, say, independent artists, okay, or even for me, I no longer play professionally because it's just enough with the business, right?
Right.
But the idea of just sitting around the house to say, hey, you know what? I wonder what Keith Moon would sound like on my song on this, because I wrote it with Tommy in mind,
Yeah.
because I was very Pete Townsend influenced.
Mhm.
So what better point to have a Keith Moon? Yeah, I can go audition a ton of drummers hopefully to get somebody close, or I can get AI to go, these are Keith Moon highlights on these songs. I want a drummer that can play to this.
Yeah.
And then I can have it.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
that
I
to
did
me is
that.
exciting.
I did that in my experimentation with AI. I
Mhm.
took some of my old Revolution songs and
Mhm.
I put Pink singing over it to see what Pink would
Wow.
sound like singing some old Revolution songs. And it was, I mean, it was just, I mean, it was like, okay, yeah, that's really cool. But the funny thing about that is like it's my melodies, it's my cadence, it's not
That's
quite
right.
hers. But just hearing, Tom, Tom Green singing your song or whatever it is, it's like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
entertainment is there, right?
Yeah.
So
I think
yeah,
that aspect of it is somewhat very, very so for useful as well as inspirational, right?
inspirational is a good word. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it opens up.
If you're using AI as a tool
Yeah,
and as inspiration to create your own art,
yeah,
I have no problem with it whatsoever.
yeah. Me too. I understand that part of it. Like I said, my main beef is somebody who never wanted to put in the time or the effort or learn about the craft and just go, hey, the song should be about a blonde girl by the jukebox. Write me one. And then knowing how to do social media, this thing
And
becomes a
yeah,
sensation.
yeah, yeah.
That to me is
But I
just
mean,
like, really?
have it all. They're having throughout life in general, having all con people. There's always been cons. There's always been people that are selling something as something original or something
Right.
valuable, and buyer beware.
Oh yeah, there's no question that I was aware of a guy in the staging industry who knows nothing about the business, who went on AI and wrote books and
Mm,
selling it.
yeah,
And I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
yeah.
You
But have
know?
you ever read any of those AI books? They're as generic as the songs.
Yeah.
They're so like, I mean, like I got a friend that has written some AI books too, and I've read a couple of them, and I'm like, okay, in some ways they're like they're not saying anything, right? They're almost saying the same thing over and over and over throughout every chapter.
Right.
And then so I'm going, it's cool that, but in some ways I'm going, well, but to take the time to do that, to put it out, to press it, to put it on Amazon downloads, to be able to sell a soft back or whatever like that. I'm like, that also took some work too. So maybe selling himself as I mean, that's all part of being an author too, right? Is the ability to finish.
Hmm.
So, I mean, if the authors that really do well are the ones that write and they do it on a schedule and they get it out. I mean, look at
Right.
Stephen King, look at anybody, like they just do it over. Those are the successful authors. Now, you can't tell me that Stephen King's books aren't don't they follow a formula?
Yeah. Black
They
magic.
follow, yeah, they do. They follow a formula, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so in some ways, what's the difference between reading a book, from Stephen King and reading a book by Richard Bach, right? That has a
Hmm.
little bit more philosophy and a little bit more,
Right.
something, in my opinion, something to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, those two paths exist too. There are those people that do this kind of book and they're entertaining and people read it and it makes
Yeah.
money for the industry and for that person. And then
Yeah.
there's the people that really, sit back and read old philosophy books.
Right, right. Well, that's the personality. I mean, that's the same thing as, I listen to a Rush record the same way I would listen to an Iron Maiden record.
Yeah.
Two different games, but, they both bring something to the table that I resonated with.
Yeah.
Right. So at this point, let's take this, pivot just a little bit even further about AI is the television and film industry
Mhm.
has now started to implement, and it was really mind blowing that when I start to dig for this research, that AI is being used in pre-production, storyboarding, ideas,
Oh, yeah.
treatments to production, of course, building things, scenes, and so forth, and then post-production,
Yeah.
adding
Oh, yeah.
things into to finalize the product.
Hmm.
Okay. All of a sudden, you start to look at this in a totally different eye, because some of the movies that I'm sure are television shows that we grew up, we love the flow, the pace, the personalities, and so forth. That was extremely organic. That somehow that got to what it become.
Right.
To have the artificial intelligence putting their hand into this to the point where it's not just, okay, we're wanting this building to fall down. It's all from the beginning of, hey, we got season 8 coming up. We need 13 storylines.
Right.
How are we going to map this out? You know, give me your feedback in regards to that type of use in artificial intelligence.
There still has to be a curator, right? There still has to be a person. I mean, every AI I've ever worked with, I don't care if it comes to, video production, making a video, writing a song, everything, it still takes this time to curate. So even prompting, learning how to prompt and how to get what you want out of AI takes knowledge, and it takes, it's a skill. It's a skill set. So if those people, if these industries are going to start to use that as a tool, hopefully, then that job of being a AI curator may replace the actual writer, or it may replace the actual, it could even replace the actual videographer. I mean, if you're, but if you can still create a piece of art or a piece of a product that people want to watch and people want to listen to, the jobs may shift, I think, but you still need someone to put their hand on it and say, yes, that's, a director or a curator, or some, gonna have to say, yes, that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
I didn't write those words, but that's exactly what I was trying to say.
Right.
It's not, I didn't accept this, this building falling down and there was a dog left at the bottom and it crushed it or something, whatever it was, whatever those funky little artifacts of AI or funky little things that AI does because you didn't prompt it right or whatever, you have to spend the time to know how to do that. And that takes talent to be able to do that. So there is a side of curation that AI is going to need to create what you want it to say.
Right. I think technology definitely have enhanced the viewership experience, right? I mean, there's no question when you look at all the superhero universes and so forth, that it has leaps and bounds compared to Superman 1978.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And because that particular movie with Chris Reeve was the beginning of all this. It was the first time on the big screen that we got to see Superman in a total different way. That was not
Yeah,
on the
it wasn't
green
just
screen,
the half
right?
of the half of it. They only see half of them.
All right. I mean, for that guy to take off and then turn and fly away, that scene itself was groundbreaking.
Yeah.
Right. So now today, of course, you're seeing stuff being thrown like a tank and things like that. And you're going, that looks pretty good. And one of the things I want to talk about the AI is the deep fake technology.
Oh man, I tell you, that's the scariest thing to me. That is the scariest thing. That all things that are scaring me in this world, it's the deep fakes that are, because I consider myself pretty good at seeing if something's AI. I mean, I know the AI voices. I know I've experimented enough with it to be able to tell. And there are some things, like some of those Ring camera things that are coming out now, that like the fake, video door camera stuff. And I'm going, I mean, it's still, I can still kind of tell, but it's scary because they're going to have to find a way to verify somehow, because you're going to be basically in a year's time, you're going to be able to make anybody do anything. And there's going to be video evidence of it.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, if we look at how much has escalated and changed, let's say starting from, the first time we saw a animated Princess Leia, right?
Yeah.
And we kind of went, you can see the difference. There's always the lack of light in the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no soul.
One thing, I was reading an article the other day that said one way you can tell is that it's often an odd choice for camera position. Like, where would that, like, if somebody was taking this? That's why those Ring cameras are so effective on me, because there are perfectly that angle, right? They're odd angles anyway, right? That you're seeing. But a lot of the stuff you're like, oh, well, how somebody's not that tall. There's nobody that could be up there unless there was like hanging from a light stand, you know? So in some ways that I thought that was a good giveaway.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the thing that to me that really shifted, I thought was the next level, was when they did Cobra Kai, and they brought in Kreese to talk to a young Johnny.
Yeah.
And I just went, that's pretty darn good.
It's getting there. Yeah.
Because it took me literally really have to go look for imperfections.
Yeah. And honestly, and because I think some of the AI stuff's getting better than even the best of the Hollywood, like the aging of the Hollywood actors. Oh, like, you know, that even they're not even like, I'm like, oh, God, it seems like it would be better than that now. You know, some of those ones that they're doing now. I forget what I watched something recently that was the aging that, you know, they were bringing back actors that were in the movie, but then they were bringing them back to a younger era.
Yeah.
And it was just I was like, oh, that's not good. It seems like it'd be better than that.
Right. Well, that's where they did the Leia thing, where you saw an older Carrie Fisher to a younger Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
Not close. It would, and you would think, okay, what are they still missing? Even if they rendered original footage and over, why are they not overlaying it perfectly?
Yeah.
What is missing that? And I think it's because of the light of the spirit.
Yep.
You know, there's something about us being the energy. You know, as the actor.
Right. Yeah. Ooh, that's a good point. I like you brought that around. That's great. Yeah, that's what you're talking about, right? So that is that soul, that thing that you can see, that is under, you know, that you can hear, you can see, that is unseeable from, you know, from a you know, a not real perspective.
Oh, no doubt that, and it's growing faster and faster because I'm such a big Bruce Lee fans. In regards to all the Bruce Lee footage, I mean, I've watched it 50 million times, so I know every frame, literally. And for TikTok to have certain clips that I just know this is not Bruce Lee, but there's moments on certain frames or sequences that I look at and just went, holy moly, this is about as close as you're ever going to get to say this was an outtake from Enter the Dragon, or this is an outtake.
Sure, yeah.
From
well, you saw. I don't know if you saw the one the other day that was Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt fighting that got everybody up in a roar, got Hollywood up in a roar.
Really?
Yeah, no, it's an action sequence between Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise, and they're fighting, and it's pretty good. I mean, it's like wow, and I think even the I don't remember what program it was, you know, what company was doing it, but they even said, yeah, we're going to have to watch this, you know, because it's going to fool people.
What platform did you see this on? TikTok?
I think it was just a social media podcast that I saw it on, but I don't remember what service had done that. But they did respond back to the backlash and said, yeah, we're working now to try and, you know, not break copyright and not allow people to create these characters so real.
Interesting.
You know, because it was, you could look it up after this. It's pretty good. You're like, oh, that could be in an action movie. It really could.
So technology's there.
It's getting there.
Definitely there. Yeah. So as we all know, Bruce Willis signed his likeness away. You know, Bruce Willis.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Okay. This, I think, happened 2 years ago.
Okay.
You know, because Bruce is somehow having that major health issue and so forth.
Yeah.
I don't think we really know the truth behind how bad it is.
Yeah.
At the same time, when this news broke out, and I kind of thought he signed his likeness to a movie production.
I think that's going to happen more and more often. I mean, why isn't Hollywood going to use, you know, actors that if they can still make them, you know, if they can still make money off of them, and, you know, and then hopefully that money would go to their families, or, you know, they would sign away that likeness, but it would go to some, or maybe, you know, go somewhere else, or, you know, make the family money or whatever it does.
Right. And in a lot of ways that's sad, because that's taken away from the new the next,
Oh,
and
yeah.
the one that can make a difference. We'll never know if there's
the
another
new
Robin
Bruce. Yeah, the new
right?
Bruce. Yeah.
Yeah. So that part is somewhat, there's the same thing with the music. When we first heard Moving Pictures from Rush, it was just like, okay, they've just really elevated past Permanent Waves, really elevated past, all those great Rush records that came before. And even Neil said, hey, Moving Pictures is when we really became Rush. And I couldn't argue that point, because I have every version of that record on every media format, and that record resonates from the first drop of that synth all the way to the end.
Yeah.
It
is.
And we're going to have less chance for the new talent that can do this because of the computer age.
I gotta believe that inspiration to be that good or that creative is built into a certain personality, into a certain type of artist. So you might be right. It might be harder to find it.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to be less created.
Well, I hope not, because, I see there's still interest in music in sense of kids wanting to play an instrument. Yeah. I don't see it in sense of the mastery of it. And what I mean by that, I see a lot more generic type of playing.
And I can even attest to that too, just as a as a producer and as a songwriter and stuff like that. You, just like I said earlier, you lose that muscle memory, you lose that, you get lazy. Mm-hmm. As an acoustic guitar player, like you said, I only got to do 8 measures of it, and then that's all I got to do. So I don't have to play the whole song through. I only got to play 8 measures of it. Now, if I'm planning on performing it, it's probably not going to be perfect in performance, so hopefully that will, I need to keep that muscle going and long enough to be able to perform it and be able to, play it for people when they want to hear that song, hey, let's hear that new song. You got to be able to do it. You have that version of it. So, so hopefully as a performer, you're not going to lose that, but you definitely lose that when it comes to with the technology,
Yeah. I agree. As a matter of fact, because of the technology is moving, that's where the expansion goes, opposed to the talent of refinement where the expansion exists.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this to wrap this up as fans.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I love it.
If you are a fan of a film, let's just take Star Wars, The New Hope, Episode 4. A lot of us have seen this sucker so many
times. I have it on my TV right now.
If the event that a production company can make this look flawlessly, I mean literally flawlessly, with
you
all
mean like recreate it in a way.
Yeah. However, the framing, the pace, the actual story stays the same, but give us a whole new version of Star Wars. Would you be hip to that?
I'd watch it once. Because the thing is that like, even with all the new Star Wars, right? The Mandalorian, all this stuff. I mean, I'm going to go see the new Mandalorian, when it comes out, it's what's a Mandalorian and Grok or whatever, because that little thing is just cute, man. It's fun to watch them, it's a good time,
Right.
So, to make me laugh, but, but then I'm going to follow that up with a pretty good documentary or, so it's maintaining that balance of, having a little bit of cotton candy and then, going home and eating your steak.
Interesting. And okay, so now let's take someone, an artist or an actor that is no longer with us, like Bruce Lee or Jimi Hendrix, that they will produce you a follow-up record or movie that is flawless as if they were alive. Would you embrace that with the same passion?
Well, I think embracing is a tough word, because curiosity would get the best of me.
Sure.
Just like listening to any of these, the streaming stuff. But embracing it's a tough word to use. Embracing something that why not just go back and try to find something new in his original albums? Why not listen to that one again?
Well, they did, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So something they knew, like if they're just recreating what he's done in the past, what's the difference?
Right.
You know, I mean,
Okay.
even your example with the Star Wars movie, if they're just
Right.
recreating that story, the curiosity is going to get the best. You're going to watch it once. You're going to say,
Right.
"Oh, okay, cool," but that's the same story that I grew up with. You know?
Right. Okay. Well, let's take that example. Darth Vader is seeing Obi-Wan Kenobi again. They're ready to showdown.
Okay.
When we first saw this, we didn't really know the backstory of any of this.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, because of technology and the AI and so forth, we can be able to do 360 pans. We can have different type of angles. We're looking at the same fight, but with the lens that is totally different.
Right. Well, I mean, that exists. That exists now. So you
Yeah,
can
that's
go.
what I'm
You can
saying.
go. Yeah, you can go and watch on YouTube. The fight recreated with acrobatics.
Right.
Those with and no, it's not as good. It's not as good as the original. The original was slow. It was paced. It was showing. They were showing their age as human beings.
Right. Right.
So in some ways that shows you how the creativeness of that is in a way more honest, right? Like,
Mhm.
I mean, I can recall watching that Star Wars one where they were acrobatics. I was like, cool to watch, but I like the original one better,
Right. Right. I think we always will embrace whatever affected us, affected internally, especially
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
touching our hearts.
Yeah. And there's no way that's gonna disappear from the world. There's no way. I mean, there's I still hear it in those little 15-second clips that you see on TikTok where I go, man, that really got me, that phrase or whatever, and that still affects me, or the song at the end of a movie, and you go and look up that artist, and then you go, hey man, that's great, I'm gonna go buy his album or whatever. So I don't think that's gonna go away. I mean, if I get on the end of the song and I'll come back and let you know if I get on the end of a movie and go, oh, that's an AI song, damn it. I'll let you know.
Yeah. No, I too, have certain moments in a movie that just a certain little bridge and a verse and something, and you don't even hear the entire song, but
No.
it fitted so well.
And the way it fits into the visuals, and you're just like all of a sudden you're pulling out the tissues.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we're going, who did that song? Yeah, and those are kind of things that I think is the magic about artistry, about self-expression, and and these are things that I as an old school musician, meaning that I had no technology to start from. But at the same time, we can argue, hey, buddy, electric guitar is technology.
Right. No,
You know?
I mean, that's the hardest argument that I have a hard time with, is that people that go, it's absolutely, I won't touch AI. I won't even listen to it. I won't do that. I'm like, man, it's a tool. Auto-tune was a tool. And, back in the day, the 80s bands, when they had to start sounding better, guess what? They hit a keyboard player off stage. They had background singers off stage before they were singing to tracks.
Yes.
That's how they sounded like the records, because
right.
a 4-piece band doesn't sound like a 24 track recording.
Yeah.
So, so to not to say that AI is like, is the worst thing, and no one should, it's technology, and you don't have to embrace it. You just have to see if you want to use some of it or understand it, I guess would be the word.
Right. Yeah. Well put. Thank you so much. Tell us, what do you got going on?
Well, I just finished a reggae album, 5 songs, reggae EP, my first reggae EP.
That's
buddy
awesome.
of mine. Yeah, it turned out great. It was that's a band called Green Comet. So go look that up on Spotify. And then I got today's 20th. I got 8 more days on my RPM this year. So I've got another 10 songs coming out on the 28th.
That's fantastic. So where do we find you? Bandcamp?
Bandcamp, colestanfield.bandcamp.com, and or look up Green Comet on all your streaming stuff. Yeah, look for a big green cover with a beach scene.
That's fantastic. Any live shows planned?
No, but the Green Comet and I, Charles Martin is the guitar player. He used to be in a band called Dexter Feverish back in the day.
Okay.
So they were on Capitol Records. So that's a buddy of mine that I've been working with for a long time. So we put out these 5 songs, and we've been rehearsing it up, and hopefully we'll be out there soon.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Well, I can't thank you enough to have this conversation, because it's dear to, I think, both of us, in regards to music, what it meant to our lives. And I know to a lot of people out there, especially a Red-pilled family who's been around, we all are, lover of music, lover of movies and television, and our world's changing.
Anything creative, right? Anything creative.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that,
get out there and create.
I think it's to serve humanity.
Good one.
That we leave our expression to inspire.
That's great. Love it.
That's the truth, though. It's always been resonating with me for decades.
100%. That's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight. Don't forget, like and subscribe, and always, always share, because we want to make the world a better place, right? So with that, I'm going to play us out. You stick around, and we'll say goodbye later. Okay?
Yep.
So
you got it.
With that, thank you, Red Pill family. Have a great Friday evening and a great weekend.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. The air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation. I want you to get mad.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
The more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
These people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"